In this WrestleMania III review, Hulk Hogan goes one-on-one with André the Giant in the main event. Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat put on a classic and much more. We are in our WrestleMania III review here in our Golden Age Rewind series on the channel. This was March 29th, 1987 at the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. We start things off in the ring. Vince McMahon welcomes us to the Silverdome as the crowd of about 18.4 billion people goes wild. There were a lot of people there. Aretha Franklin then does the best rendition of America the Beautiful in WrestleMania history. I think that still holds to this day. A tremendous start to what would be an all-time show, and we'll talk about that at the finish of where this ranks all-time among my favorite WrestleManias in history. Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse the Body Ventura are with Bob Uecker and Mary Hart. They kick off the festivities ringside, and we get to our first match. And it's going to be the Can-Am Connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zink, teaming up to take on Don Muraco and Cowboy Bob Orton. The crowd loving Martel and Zink here as they control the action early on. Always love when the babyfaces get off to a great start in the first match because it's a good way to gauge where the crowd is right from the start. And you had that here. Huge pop for the hot tag to Martel. Babyface is on a roll in this match. The double team action continues. The crossbody does the job to give the Can-Am Connection the win. Really an exciting way, I thought, to start this show. Yes, there would be more important matches to come and matches of more consequence, but this is kind of what you want to really get the crowd going early on. And you had a hot babyface team here in Martel and Zink going up against two kind of classic heels in Muraco and Cowboy Bob Orton. So I thought this actually worked pretty well. We'll see if this makes the recommended matches list, but a nice way to start the show here, given kind of all the big matches still yet to come. Video package as we see the events leading to Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules, and backstage it is Mean Gene Okerlund with Hercules and Bobby Heenan. Herc is here to kick Billy Jack's ass. It's about as simple as that. So we do get to our match. Billy Jack Haynes versus the mighty Hercules with Bobby Heenan. The entrance carts make their official debut here. And of course, those were just the best. If there's some of those visuals you remember from the show, the carts going down the aisle, probably one of the top visuals, I would say, especially with Andre in it, which we'll get to a bit later. This is being pushed as the Battle of the Full Nelson. Billy Jack goes for it early on, but Herc manages to reverse it. Most of the match really is just Herc wearing down Haynes' back, and there's really not a whole lot more to it, to be honest with you. You would think that would lead to maybe a big babyface comeback for the win, or the heel eventually being too strong to overcome. Let's see how it goes. Instead, it's Haynes battling out of the Full Nelson that he gets a series of offense going before locking in his own Full Nelson. Remember, it's the Battle of Full Nelson. Then Herc breaks it by going through the middle rope. Haynes continues to hold on to the Full Nelson, which causes both men to get counted out. All about power in this match, but the finish sucked. It was not very good, as you, again, had the Battle of the Full Nelson and the countout here, just given kind of both men barreling to the outside. Things pick up a bit after the match. Herc takes the chain, busts Billy Jack wide open here. You can clearly see Billy Jack bleeding, by the way. It's pretty clear as day. But, man, this guy is bleeding profusely here. So, in match number 2, we've got a guy that's bleeding like a stuck pig. And by the time Herc and Heenan leave the ring, I mean, Billy Jack's just pouring blood here. So, this was, fine. Again, I didn't really think the finish was too enjoyable with the double countout. But, nonetheless, a little power on power between two strong men here in Billy Jack and Herc. All right, backstage, Gene is with King Kong Bundy, who, as we're going to see, goes from WrestleMania main event at WrestleMania 2 to this next match, as he is with Little Tokyo and Lord Littlebrook. And yeah, quite a fall for Bundy from the WrestleMania 2 main event to this. Not to knock this, it was something that gave you a little bit of a change of pace here, but Gene talking with them, then he's talking with Hillbilly Jim, the Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver. Jim's going to look out for his partners, so we are getting the 6-man tag. King Kong Bundy, Little Tokyo, and Lord Littlebrook versus Hillbilly Jim, the Haiti Kid, and Little Beaver. Bob Uecker joining commentary for this match makes it even better. I couldn't think of a better combination than having Uecker on the play-by-play for this match. The big spot they work to is Bundy sort of teasing, squashing Kid and Beaver, but Hillbilly Jim gets the tag, takes Bundy down. They go for the pile-up pin, but that doesn't work. Eventually, Bundy's had enough. He slams Beaver and drops an elbow as the ref calls for the DQ. So this was what it was. There to kind of serve the purpose that Bundy wasn't going to be taking any crap from these guys, and Bundy had enough, and that was that. So DQ win for the babyfaces, and Hillbilly Jim did indeed look out for his partners. But yeah, to think about Bundy in the blue cage against Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania II, closing things out, to this, not exactly probably the trajectory you're looking for if you're him. All right, now we go backstage, and it is Mary Hart, remember, who is with Randy Savage and Elizabeth. Mary wants to talk to Elizabeth. Savage doesn't like that at all. Some things don't change. So, yeah, that was kind of the story here. We get a video package recapping the events leading to King Harley Race versus the Junkyard Dog. Meanwhile, backstage, Gene with Harley, Heenan, and the Fabulous Moolah. Lots of talk about royalty here. Uecker wants a date with Moolah, so that's a development on this show. We transition to Gene with JYD, who says he's going to be wearing the crown. So that does lead us to what is being promoted as a loser must kneel and bow match between King Harley Race, who is is accompanied by Bobby Heenan and Fabulous Moolah, versus the Junkyard Dog. Quite a stipulation there. It's all JYD at the start, with Harley really just bumping all over the place for the guy. I'll never not love the JYD headbutts. I mean, if you've seen one, you know what I'm talking about. Just tremendous stuff to watch JYD deliver a headbutt. The crowd seems to agree with that. Then, out of nowhere, a Heenan distraction allows Harley to hit a simple belly-to-belly suplex, and he pins JYD for the win. Sort of anticlimactic, abrupt finish here as you're watching this match. Of course, JYD's not going to bow, and he destroys Harley after the match. So, yeah, pretty simple for Harley Race to get the win here. Kind of came out of nowhere, but JYD's not bowing for the King, and so he gets a little bit of payback. That's what the fans wanted to see, and that was that. So, served its purpose there with the finish. All right, backstage, Vince is with Hulk Hogan. He calls out the critics in the gym who think it's his last ride. Then he rips his shirt off. It's all in the vitamins, brother. He says the Hulkamaniacs don't take any shortcuts, and Andre has to beat all of them to beat him. So Andre's got to beat every single Hulkamaniac out there to get the win over Hulk Hogan. Backstage, Gene is with the Dream Team of Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake. Plus, we've got Johnny Valiant and Dino Bravo. They yell about some stuff, and that's going to lead us into our next match, which is the Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond, taking on the Dream Team. And two fun teams here, I thought. The Rougeaus, of course, don't yet have their legendary theme music. That will be coming in a couple years. But Heenan makes his way to the commentary booth, and this has to be the best trio, I would say, in commentary history when you consider Heenan joining Gorilla and Jesse here. Doesn't get much better than that. He runs down Billy Jack's Haynes antics because Heenan doesn't want to let us forget about that, and then proceeds to say that he doesn't deal with midgets. So, Bobby Heenan on one right now. He was one of a kind. The finish of this match, hell of a double team move here from the Rougeaus, which allows Bravo to sneak in while the referee's distracted and hit one of the Rougeaus. That leads to Valentine getting the pin for the victory. After the match, Beefcake questions the interference here. So, we get the heels cheating to win, but Brutus Beefcake questioning it a little bit. So his partners just leave him in the ring, and thus begins one of the many character transformations for Brutus Beefcake throughout his professional wrestling career. Another match that, not really going to be one that you're going to think about watching 100 times or anything, but it was a tag team match that developed a little bit of a story here with Beefcake, and that was kind of your purpose. So, all right, we get a video hyping up the events leading to the Roddy Piper versus Adrian Adonis match. Backstage, Gene is with Adrian Adonis and Jimmy Hart. They're going to clip Piper's hair because this is a loser gets his head shaved match. Adrian Adonis with Jimmy Hart against Roddy Piper. Gorilla and Jesse remind us that Piper is leaving wrestling after this match, and we'll get more into that when we do our deep dive on WrestleMania 3 in another podcast here on the channel. But this is just our straight-up show review. We'll talk more about that because that's an interesting one to discuss here in 1987. I'd like to boldly predict he's going to be back, though. Piper brings Hart in for the double noggin knocker with Adrian Adonis. Always a favorite when you get the double noggin knocker at this stage of the WWF. Gorilla's call of that move never gets old either. He just delivers it in such a tremendous way. Then Piper wants more, and he throws Hart from the top onto Adonis. Hart regroups and scoops Piper's leg as Adonis goes on the attack. More shenanigans here from the heels as they try to keep the upper hand, and Adonis locks in the sleeper. Adonis thinks he has the match won when he does that, but here comes Beefcake to hand Piper the clippers. So Brutus Beefcake is back out. Piper locks in the sleeper, and that'll do it. So there's the official turn for Brutus, and he shaves some of Adonis's hair. Really entertaining work, I thought, from everyone involved here. I'm not the biggest Brutus Beefcake fan ever, but I think the way they set this up was, very sensible to have kind of the development you had at the end of the last match. Now Brutus comes out. All of a sudden, we've got him shaving some hair and off and running with the new version of Brutus Beefcake, after this and as we move forward, into the 88 and so forth. So I would say this is, probably the best thing on the show so far. And, this was very entertaining, but not surprised when you consider everyone involved here, with Piper and Adonis and even Jimmy Hart all playing their role pretty well. So, all right, in the ring, the Fink introduces Jesse as Gorilla pushes that he simply wanted to be announced to the crowd. So Jesse Ventura gets his introduction to the crowd here. So the Fink doing him a favor, perhaps. Jimmy Hart rants to Mean Gene about his hatred for the British Bulldogs because now, up next, it is the Hart Foundation and Danny Davis with Jimmy Hart taking on the British Bulldogs and Tito Santana. Great six-man setup here. We've got Matilda unleashing some frustration on Jimmy Hart before the bell rings, and Jimmy has been bumping like a wild man on this show. This guy's been everywhere. Even Euchre kind of finds it pretty humorous here. Gorilla basically puts over Brett as the next big thing, so as usual, Gorilla's spot on with his analysis. Mary Hart wants Dynamite to make a tag and can't figure out why he's not doing so. Well, Mary, I'll tell you, he's getting his ass kicked out there. That's why. He can't make the tag because he is getting walloped by the competition. Davis with the cocky spot of coming in for a few quick shots on a defenseless Dynamite before tagging back out. Always enjoy when the heels do that. He tries to do it again, but the hot tag to Tito is made, and he runs wild. Bulldog hits a tombstone on Davis like it's a transitional move here, which is pretty funny to think about given what that move would signify once The Undertaker made his mark. We've got a brouhaha as the action breaks down, and somehow it's Davis that scurries over. He pins the Bulldog for the win. Good action here, as you would expect from these six, and pretty entertaining. So kind of keeping the momentum going on this show. Crowd was hot, and that was kind of the theme throughout, is that they were really into some of these sequences, and again, the heels kind of playing up the cockiness and all this other stuff worked out pretty well. So, but if you would have had, Danny Davis pinning the British Bulldog, probably not one you could have called perhaps on that. So, okay, backstage, Mean Gene is with André the Giant and Bobby Heenan. Andre's stoic stare in this segment is legendary. It's one of those where you know it when you see it, right? It's just that stare you get from André as he's prepared for this big main event. Heenan explains why André is going to beat Hogan. This is short, but really an awesome way to build the importance of this main event. I thought this was excellent. Next up, Butch Reed, who is with Slick, is going to take on Koko Beware. What a pop for Koko here. The birds are over, brother. Jesse wants Jack Tunney to look into Koko's taped hand. And once again, Jesse the greatest here as the heel commentator. Butch Reed controls most of the action until Koko fights back with a few near falls, but another near fall attempt on a crossbody leads to Reed reversing it, and he grabs a handful of tights to score the win. So Butch Reed, the victor here. After the match, the heels try to continue the onslaught, but here comes Tito the ultimate babyface, as we've talked about in our previous WrestleMania reviews here on the Golden Age Rewind series. He runs out, makes the save, so Tito is here, and a valiant babyface saving Koko in this one. All right, now we've got a recap of the events leading to Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. Oh, yeah. Backstage, Savage taunts Steamboat, says he's going to embarrass him and put him out of wrestling. And then it's Mean Gene with Steamboat, who says it's going to be a clash of titans. And here we go. This will probably be the longest match we've reviewed so far, maybe on any particular show we've done on this channel. It is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with George the Animal Steel versus Randy Savage with Elizabeth for the WWF Intercontinental title. Strap in, because here we go. This is going to be a lengthy one, because we are going to go through this, and if you have seen it, you already know, but let's say you haven't seen it. It's going to tell you all the reasons why this is heralded as probably one of the best matches of all time. All right, so it's been several years since I've rewatched this match, so it's always fun to revisit it each time, because I feel like you get something new out of it when you do that. What quickly stands out every time that I do watch it is that every move in this match feels important. The psychology is tremendous. They work kind of the back and forth style that sends the crowd on what I think can only be described as an emotional roller coaster. Like, it's the ups and the downs. It's just all those tiny little things that make a match great, and they got all of it here. Just when you think that Savage has all the momentum, now it's Steamboat mounting a comeback with a crossbody into a near fall. Another thing that people remember from this match is all the pinfall attempts, which again, to me, only adds to the drama and the suspense. I love, Savage trying to get Steamboat counted out by sending him into the front row, right? Yet another little small detail that works wonders for this story. It's already adding up, and we got a long way to go in this match. Savage hits a pair of double axe handles. Steamboat kicks out again. He keeps kicking out after every big move. The babyface that gets knocked down time and time again and keeps getting up is just foolproof when it comes to storytelling. It just works. It can be that simple. The fans are biting on every single pin. They think Steamboat has it won, though. However, Savage sneaks the foot on the ropes at the last second. Another awesome series of pin attempts, and my goodness, this is terrific. That's what I have in my notes. This is just a terrific match. The crowd's trying everything they can to will Steamboat to victory, so now you've got the crowd involved. They're engaged with every single move. Again, going back to that, every move, they are engaged here, because that could be the one that wins it for Steamboat, or the one that wins it for Savage. The ref bump allows Randy Savage to take control. He hits the flying elbow, but there's no referee to count it. This sends the crowd into a frenzy. They're like, oh no, there's no referee. What are we going to do? So Savage goes over, grabs the ring bell as George the Animal Steel tries to take it away from him, and Steel manages to finally do it to send Savage flying, and that's when Savage tries a body slam, but it's Steamboat who reverses it into a small package for the 1-2-3 to win the Intercontinental title. Folks, it simply does not get much better than this in pro wrestling. I don't care if you're watching it in 1987. I don't care if you're watching it in 2026 or beyond. The build to it made it seem like the most important match to date in both men's careers, and they sold it to perfection. All the near fall pin attempts pushed the idea that both men were desperate in a good way to win the title and finally vanquish their rival. They both put it all out there. And I think that sometimes there is a tendency to believe that a match can only be perfect if it's long. Keep in mind here, Savage versus Steamboat was only 14 minutes and 35 seconds. It wasn't 30 plus minutes. 14 minutes and 35 seconds. They managed to bring out so many emotions that fans were an emotional mess by the time this match was over. Another tidbit that I loved about this, the post-match visual of watching a broken Randy Savage riding on the cart with his head down. That is how you tell the story without saying a word. I don't rate matches based on what I think they should be to someone else. I don't want to tell you what to think about a match. I rate it based on what they are to me. And to me, this is still one of the best matches I have ever seen in professional wrestling. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's easily one of my top 5 favorite matches of all time. We'll get to others, I'm sure, as we go throughout this here on Rewind Wrestling and look at all these other shows in all these different eras. But I don't know how it's ever going to get bumped out of that because it's just that good. And like I said, it's 14 minutes and 35 seconds. They didn't overstay their welcome. Everything mattered in this match. But you can probably guess that this will be in the recommended matches. A legendary match, one of the all-time best ever, and 2 of the all-time best to ever do it. This match should be studied, as you've heard many wrestlers say, by anyone who wants to get into professional wrestling. Not because they have to copy it or anything like that, but because this is how you sell a story, and this is how you just put together an absolute masterpiece, like I said. So, coming off of that, we get to the backstage with Mean Gene, with Jake Roberts and Alice Cooper. They look back at the Honky Tonk Man beating Jake with a guitar. Then it's Gene with Honky and Jimmy Hart. And, of course, they're as obnoxious as ever. Tough spot to be in coming out of that, given what we just saw with Savage and Steamboat. But it's Jake the Snake Roberts with Alice Cooper against the Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart. Give the crowd some credit here. They just saw a classic, and they're still as hot as they were when this show started. So that's why, talk about elevating a show. You would think maybe the crowd's exhausted after that, but like I mentioned, it was not a long match. They're still invested, even after a classic that they just saw. 2 great WWF characters in this match, and that's why this is such a memorable show. It's not that all the matches are classic, but they all feature just a blistering crowd and a clearly defined good guy and a bad guy that play well off of each other. I think that's one of the forgotten reasons why this show is so good. And that's what you had throughout this match. Eventually, of course, Jimmy Hart gets involved again. And that's where Honky Tonk takes advantage and uses the ropes for leverage to notch the pin for the win. The real payoff comes after the match, where Jake holds Jimmy Hart, and he and Alice throw the snake on top of Jimmy Hart. Not designed to be a classic, but it was designed to play a role on this card, and I thought it did it just fine. So, crowd got what they wanted. Maybe not Jake winning, but Jake and Alice throwing the snake on Jimmy Hart, that's the real payoff here. Jimmy got his comeuppance. Good stuff. All right, in the ring, the Fink invites Mean Gene into there, and he gets a huge pop. I mean, the crowd, I said pop for everything. They're popping huge for Mean Gene here. The fans start chanting his name. Just incredible. Give me this crowd forever, for any show ever. This is just an all-timer. Gene announces the indoor attendance record of 93,173, a number that would be debated for decades to come. I don't know how many people were in the building. Plenty of studies have been done on that. I don't want to engage in that argument right now. We'll do that when we do the deep dive on WrestleMania III at some point. Little did Gene know, again, how much this announcement would be debated by people, but Gene had a hell of a time talking about it. Okay. The Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with Slick versus the Killer Bees. The greatest part about this is Slick comes out wearing his torn shirt after getting it ripped by Tito. Nice little continuity there. That's true dedication to the character. There's trash all over the ring before the match starts because Volkov, of course, singing the Russian national anthem. But here comes Hacksaw Jim Duggan to save America, and my goodness, does this man get a pop. USA, USA, USA. This was pretty much your typical letdown match before the much-anticipated main event, but these guys worked hard, put together a solid tag team match. Sheik locks in the camel clutch, so Hacksaw says to hell with it. I'll just come in and hit him with a 2x4 to cost the Killer Bees the match. So, there you have it. Jesse loves giving Hacksaw shit after he does stuff like this. It's hilarious. Like, Jesse's just like, what is this guy doing? He just cost him the match. Hard to deny that. All right, but we're moving on from that match to the main event because backstage, Gene is with Andre and Heenan. Andre's going to take the title from Hogan. video package recapping the events leading to André and Hogan here, including the segment where with André and Hogan before André turns to the dark side. Hogan's dramatic yes when Piper asks him, you've heard it, you can hear it in your head right now when Hogan says that when Piper asks him about facing André at WrestleMania. Never not funny the way Hogan says yes. Gene's with Hogan. He's as hulked up as ever. That gets us to the ring. The Fink introduces Bob Uecker as the special guest ring announcer here for this one, and he brings in Mary Hart, who is the special guest timekeeper. And here we go. André the Giant with Bobby Heenan versus Hulk Hogan for the WWF title. It's a small thing, but I love Hogan walking down the aisle like he would for any other entrance. Hulkamania doesn't need a cart, brother. He's just walking on down the aisle. The Irresistible Force meets the Immovable Object. We all know the setup. We all know the tagline. It will be replayed thousands upon thousands of times over the years. So let's get to it. This is one of those defining matches in wrestling history, and I still, to this day, would argue that it is the biggest match that WWE has ever done, / WWF. I think it's the biggest match they've ever done, period. Hogan and André. Hogan immediately going for the body slam, and his back giving out was a nice touch, which we know. When you know exactly what happened to Hogan's back. Since that allows André to work on the back the entire match, by no means is this a technical masterpiece. This is not Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat. But anyone rating it or trying to grade it like it should be that is doing it wrong. This is all about the star power and the story, which is perfectly acceptable when it's a match involving two of the biggest attractions in the history of the sport. Why would you want it any other way? You wouldn't want these guys going against what got them here and what got the WWF here. Work the formula. Do what they do best. There's no doubt that André was extremely limited here in what he could do physically, but I thought he still managed to pull off really the most important spots in the match, the ones that really you needed to get over with the crowd. Now listen, would a long bear hug work by today's standards? No. But does it work for André in 1987, whose primary goal was to crush Hulk Hogan and destroy his back? Sure it does. It's the whole point. Every time Hogan tries to thwart André, it's André who uses his size, uses his power to stop Hogan's offense. And then comes the climax here, where Hogan finally knocks André to his feet. The man is down, and the crowd is eating it up with a spoon, right? Knocks him down to his feet. From there, Hogan slams André in one of the biggest moments probably in WWE / WWF history, and he hits the big boot to earn the victory. It's a match that is built around a few big moments. But what I always enjoy about it, rewatching it every time, is that it did not try to be something it shouldn't be. Throw out any debate for star ratings or any of this other stuff, because it does not matter in this match. It is an incredible spectacle that went way beyond a wrestling match, and eventually, as we know, it would lead to the biggest primetime audience in wrestling history for the rematch in 1988, which we will get to. Star rate it whatever you want. To me, this is 5 stars all the way because of the spectacle of it all. This is as good as it gets when it comes to creating a spectacle in professional wrestling. Move by move, is it the greatest ever? Of course it's not. But if you're talking about building up the match on the marquee and fan investment, it does not get much better than this. So, again, whatever, you rate it on whatever system you want to rate it on, but for me, this will always be an all-timer just because of what it meant and what it did for the WWF and just it being Hogan versus André. So, there you go. And like I said, we know kind of the closing visuals. You have Hogan celebrating, Andre's going off on the cart, all these things, like just an unbelievable crowd, again, spectacle. That's the only way to put it. So that was WrestleMania 3. And if you're talking about recommended matches, which we do for all these easy choices here, as I think you had 2 5-star classics in a different way, right? Savage versus Steamboat, one of my all-time favorite matches. Period. Top 5. Without question. Hogan versus André, top 5 in terms of importance. Ever. So that's a 5-star spectacle, even if it's not a 5-star wrestling match. However you want to grade it. And then I would also throw in the Adrian Adonis versus Roddy Piper match as a recommended match for sure. And then, like I mentioned, there's a couple other tag team matches in there that you could throw into the mix. I mean, I thought the crowd was pretty hot for that opener with the Can-Am connection against Muraco and Orton. But I would go with those 3 as really the big 3 of the show, and really it's a big 2 with Savage, Steamboat, and Hogan and André. Overall, the thing about a great wrestling show is that it's all about fan expectations. As a fan, I don't expect every match on the card to be a 5-star classic because that's not what they're there for. It's all about the ebb and the flow. In addition to the nostalgia, the characters, and the storylines. All those things combined. This show gave me everything I could want as a fan. You had a wrestling classic. You had a once-in-a-lifetime visual with Hogan and André in the middle of the ring. Hogan slamming André. And you had a host of memorable characters. For my money, WrestleMania III is easily one of the best WrestleManias of all time. And I think it ranks in my top 3. Now, again, we'll eventually get to where I would rank it in that top 3, but it would rank in my top 3 of all-time WrestleManias because I think it's that good, and it kind of gives you everything, like I said, from a fan expectation standpoint you could want on a WrestleMania card in 1987. And you still have a match to this day that is one of the best ever. So that doesn't hurt, for sure. There you go. My review of WrestleMania 3 here in our Golden Age Rewind series. Show MVP, forgot to mention. I mean, it's hard to give a show MVP to one person here. You're going to have co-MVPs from me, and that is Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat. So we're going co-MVPs. I think it's warranted in this instance. So there you go. What do you guys think about WrestleMania 3? When's the last time you watched it? If you've gone back and rewatched it recently, did it hold up for you? Where would you rank it in your all-time favorite WrestleManias? Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. Always appreciate you watching and or listening here on Rewind Wrestling, where we hit play on wrestling's past. This is part of the Golden Age Rewind series. Leave your comments with your thoughts on WrestleMania 3.